Histobiograph.
They say Queen Aysha had no face, only a mask stitched to her skin. The legend of Queen Aysha's true face has haunted the eastern provinces of Rúmir for over 300 years. Her portraits were forbidden, her reflection was outlawed, and to utter her name in front of a mirror was once punishable by death. But why? Why did an entire kingdom build temples, courts, and rituals around hiding one woman's face? And what happens when someone sees it? If these stories matter to you, consider subscribing to Histobiograph 365. We uncover the truths they tried to burn, bury, and forget. It began on the night of the Crimson Eclipse. The day Queen Aysha was crowned, a blood moon swallowed the capital's skies. Birds dropped dead mid-flight, crops withered, and the high priest of Amun clawed out his eyes with a bone comb, screaming one word: unborn. What followed was a reign that historians called a rule without gaze. Servants were blinded by royal decree. Mirrors were confiscated. Curtains were sewn shut. Anyone who dared to look at her directly was either exiled or disappeared. No artist ever painted her. No historian ever described her face. And yet, every woman in Aysha's bloodline was born with the same scar. It ran from the corner of the mouth to the ear, like a stitched smile struggling to hold back a scream. Some believed she was cursed. Others claimed she was never human. But the oldest tales, whispered by dying midwives and banished seers, spoke of something else. They said Aysha was born without eyes. No sockets, no lids, no brows, just a stretch of flawless skin where her gaze should have been. And on the 7th night after her birth, her mother died, choking on her own tongue. They buried Aysha beside her. But the grave was empty by morning, and Aysha was found sitting upright in her nursery. From that day forward, her father, the last king of the house of Varan, never spoke again. He passed a law that no mirror may enter the palace. The kingdom changed. Candles replaced sunlight. The night became sacred. Aysha grew. She never blinked, never cried, never slept. Her face remained covered, first with silk, then with silver, finally with a leather veil, stitched closed with red wax thread. 12 monks sealed it with bare hands. Within a year, all 12 died under strange and silent circumstances. One smuggled painting survived. A dying servant hid it in the lining of his robe. In it, Aysha appears as a figure without form. A pale cloak, gloved hands, no face, only a dim glow beneath the mask, like heat from a coal that refuses to die. The question lingered. Was the veil hiding something monstrous? Or was it hiding nothing at all? Because if Queen Aysha truly had no face, if she was born as the echo of something that should not be, then to look at her was not just forbidden. It was a door. And some doors, once opened, never close. They called it the Skin Rite, a ritual so ancient that even the Book of Marn avoided its mention. Yet in the forbidden archives beneath the Chapel of 12, one page remained. Its corners were charred. The letters were etched in iron ink. It told of a girl born without a face. Her birth came under a dead moon. Her presence broke mirrors, silenced names, and brought fire from beneath the ground. That girl was Aysha. But Aysha was not the first. 300 years before her coronation, a servant named Alara gave birth to a faceless child. The night was marked by the hollow star, a celestial alignment believed to bring ruin. Terrified, the priests encased the infant in silver and buried her beneath the roots of the royal orchard. 1 week later, the orchard caught fire. 36 trees bled sap the color of oxblood. The priest who buried her vanished. His remains were later discovered inside the palace wall, kneeling, with eye sockets melted clean. The queen who ruled at that time miscarried twice. The royal physician lost his voice forever. The castle dogs howled for 7 nights without pause. That child was never named. A century passed. Another faceless child was born, this time to a noble family. The midwife went blind before dawn. The mother wept blood for 9 days. The family disappeared. Their estate was left to rot, swallowed by fog and vines. The curse had a pattern. It followed one bloodline, the house of Varan. Aysha was the final heir. The monks of the chapel believed that this line descended not from mortals, but from something buried beneath the mirror sea. Something older than kings. Something without form or voice. They called it the stillborn god. According to the lost doctrine, every 5 generations, the stillborn god would awaken. Not with sound, not with fire, but through a girl born without a face. A vessel of silence. a body that could not weep or lie, a presence that would unmake everything she touched. Aysha was that vessel. The ritual to contain her began on her 13th name day. In a chamber lit by blue flame and wax, she stood without expression. 12 monks approached, each holding a bowl of ash. Her skin, untouched since birth, flinched beneath their fingers. It was said that moonlight alone could blister her flesh. A single chant echoed through the stone walls. We do not stitch to bind. We stitch to silence the mouth of God. They stitched the mask into her face. They bound her hands with salt and silk. They inked her tongue with the sigil of unbirth. From that night forward, Aysha never spoke again. No one dared touch her. No one dared look. She walked the palace alone. Even her shadow moved differently. It flickered, even when the candles were still. And then, the disappearances began. 12 members of court vanished over 12 nights. One each night. Always in silence. Always in the same order they had looked upon her during the coronation. No blood was found. Only their eyes, placed gently on her throne. By the 13th night, the palace was empty. And Queen Aysha, dressed in white, stood before a broken mirror. Her reflection was not her own. It was a void. It was watching. And it blinked. They found him beneath the bell tower. The first death. Captain Rail of the Royal Guard. A man known for his silence, his loyalty, and his unshaking devotion to the crown. When his body was discovered, his mouth had been sewn shut with red wax thread. His eyes were gone, replaced by white stones. A crown of salt encircled his head. There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no footprints. Only a single message, carved into the wooden floor beside him. She sees. The court panicked. 3 days passed. Then another death. This time, the queen's food taster. He collapsed during a ceremonial tasting, clutching his throat. When they opened his mouth, they found it full of melted wax. His tongue was missing. Whispers filled the palace halls. Some said Aysha was punishing those who looked at her too long. Others claimed she was no longer human, that something else had taken her body. But the truth was worse. It was not punishment. It was instinct. Aysha did not choose to kill. She simply revealed what was already hidden. Those who saw her true form were not slain by her. They were destroyed by what they saw in themselves. The palace attempted to restore order. Mirrors were banished again. Servants covered their faces. The royal court moved to the west wing, leaving Aysha to roam the eastern chambers alone. But the silence spread. Birds stopped singing. Clocks stopped ticking. Even the great fountain in the center of the courtyard fell still. Water hung in the air for hours before falling. And when it did, it fell upward. One night, a maid heard soft humming echo from Aysha's chamber. She pressed her ear to the door. It sounded like a lullaby, though the words made no sense. That maid was found the next morning inside the laundry basin. Her body folded perfectly into a square, as if pressed by invisible hands. Aysha never left the palace again, but she no longer needed to. Her presence warped space. A monk sent to deliver letters was lost for 17 days. When he returned, his hair was white. He claimed to have walked through a forest of broken glass. He said Aysha spoke to him without speaking, that she showed him a place beneath the palace, a place made of mirrors that swallowed sound. He did not sleep after that. He bit off his own fingers one by one. The queen's confessor attempted to intervene. He believed her to be possessed, a vessel for ancient evil. He prepared a ritual, purification by fire, holy oil, prayers carved into stone. But when he entered her chamber, his heart failed before he said a single word. The parchment he carried was found unburned. On it were the words, "Not cursed, not possessed. She is what was promised." By the end of the 3rd month, 17 had died. 5 had disappeared. The royal court stopped recording the names. Only one rule remained. Do not look. Do not speak her name. Do not dream of her. Because even in sleep, Aysha waited. And those who met her there did not wake. They called him Brother Solon, a monk of the outer cloister. Old, blind, and half-mad from years spent copying forbidden texts by candlelight. He was the last person anyone expected to speak with the queen. But he claimed he had. He told the High Council that Aysha was not cursed, that she was awake beneath the mask, that she had called to him in dreams, whispering not in words, but in memories that were not his own. They imprisoned him at once. But Brother Solon would not stay silent. He scratched messages into the walls of his cell, into his own skin, into the stone floor using his teeth. One phrase repeated again and again. She remembers. The guards who fed him stopped sleeping. One slit his own throat with a spoon. Another removed both ears and claimed to hear her singing through bone. Still, Solon smiled. He said Aysha had shown him the future. A kingdom made of mirrors. A throne that did not cast a shadow. A queen who ruled not by command, but by reflection. He said she was not the end. She was the echo. The only one who listened was Lady Viral, a court historian who had already lost 2 brothers and a daughter to Aysha's silence. She visited Solon in his cell, asked him one question. Why her? Solon replied without blinking. Because she was born with no lies. Because she did not break the world. She revealed it. Viral wrote down everything. She gathered old maps, torn manuscripts, and sealed records. She found accounts of women like Aysha across time and empire. Always hidden, always feared, always born under the blood moon. All linked to sudden collapses in language, song, or memory. She became obsessed. One night, she entered Aysha's wing with only a lantern and a single sentence carved into her palm. If truth has a face, let me see it. She was not seen again. But weeks later, her journals returned. No one saw who delivered them. They were found outside the council chamber, stacked neatly, sealed with black wax. Inside, one entry stood out. I saw her, and I saw myself, and we were the same. The council destroyed the journals. They burned them in the furnace beneath the throne room. But the fire turned blue, and the smoke smelled like salt and blood. The next morning, the head of the council was found at Aysha's door. He was kneeling. He was smiling, and his eyes were open, wide, staring at nothing. Inside his mouth was a mirror. It reflected no one, only Aysha. The year the silence reached its peak, the palace was nearly empty. Aysha no longer spoke. She no longer moved. Or at least, no one saw her do so. Yet every night, her footsteps echoed through the marble halls. Always alone, always slow, as if she was walking in circles around something that could not be seen. One night, the last remaining court physician entered her wing. He left behind a single note. I will not fix her. I will find her. He was found one day later, seated at her dressing table. His scalp was removed. His skull was empty. Yet there was no blood. His reflection remained in the mirror, even after his body was taken away. At last, the royal archivist made a final decision. The name of Queen Aysha was to be erased. Her records removed. Her laws unwritten. Her bloodline cut from the tree of kings. Her chambers sealed with iron and prayers. She would become a myth, an echo, a lesson. But myths have weight. They press against walls. They seep through cracks. And on the night of the sealing, as the iron doors were being closed, a single child slipped through. A girl no older than 7. She had been born mute. She walked in dreams. And she said the queen had called her. The guards never found her. Years later, the doors remained shut. Until the earthquakes came. Until the river dried. Until the fires began to burn without smoke. Then, one morning, the doors opened. No one had touched them. Inside, the chamber was empty. No dust. No cobwebs. No bones. Only a mask. It rested in the center of the room, upright, glowing faintly with blue light. It had no eye holes. No mouth. No straps. Only a single inscription etched into its surface. She is not gone. She is behind. The new king ordered the room bricked shut. Priests returned. Rituals resumed. But nothing worked. Because outside the palace, a new plague had begun. People began to lose their faces. It started slowly. A mark here. A patch of smooth skin there. Then entire expressions disappeared. Eyes that stopped blinking. Mouths that no longer opened. Children born with no faces, and yet they could see. And they smiled. The plague did not spread like illness. It spread like memory. One woman wrote a letter to her son. She said she had seen something in her dream. A place made of mirrors. A queen made of silence. And she had remembered a face that was not hers, but had always been inside her. At the bottom of the letter, her words were smudged. Her signature was gone. And in its place, a perfect mirror image of a stitched smile. They called it the hollow year. 12 months without color, without song, without reflection. In the capital, fountains stopped flowing. Markets grew silent. Mirrors were covered not by law, but by instinct. People forgot birthdays. Children did not cry. And across every doorway, someone carved the same 2 words. She remembers. It was not fear that held them anymore. It was recognition. The stories say the queen was gone, that the room was empty, that the mask was just an object. But something remained. Not a person, not a ghost, not even a curse. An echo. Those who dreamed of her spoke in patterns. Some painted with blood. Others hummed a melody no one else could hear. One girl, blind from birth, painted Aysha's face perfectly onto a cathedral wall. Then she disappeared. The image would not fade. One night, a historian uncovered a journal that survived the purge. It had no author, no title, only a question written again and again on its pages. What is a face? Is it truth? Is it choice? Or is it simply the part of us we fear to lose most? They buried the journal, burned it, then lost the ashes. And still, the dreams continued. Villagers told stories of a woman in white, walking through fields with no footprints. They said her veil was made of wind, that her hands were warm, that she never spoke, but left behind silence so deep it made babies stop breathing. Decades passed. The palace became a ruin. The name Aysha was forgotten. Until now. A recent excavation in the ruins of Rúmir uncovered a sealed chamber beneath the old throne room. Inside were no bones, no artifacts, only water, perfectly still, a pool that reflected nothing. At its center, a single item floated. The mask, uneged, unbroken, waiting. Some say it is just a story, a lesson in pride, in secrecy, in power unchecked. But then again, stories do not return. Stories do not hum in your sleep. Stories do not carry your face when you look into a mirror and see something missing. So the next time your reflection lingers longer than you do, the next time silence feels heavy, the next time you forget your name for just 1 second, ask yourself, was she ever gone? Or did she just become what we left behind? If you felt a chill just now, do not keep it to yourself. Subscribe, share, and let history speak again.